welcome back to Iran Travel Guide. I'm here with my wife Azadeh Mirzai. I'm Stuart Dennison and we are here in Lahijan. We're about to have some tea, which should be lovely, and it's a great place to have it because Lahijan is famous within Iran as the city of tea.
Yes, Lahijan is one of the biggest cities in the east of Gilan Province, which is in the north of Iran, and it's a beautiful city. Where we are exactly right now, it's on top of the mountains, which is called Shaitan Mountain.
Or in English, the Devil's Mountain.
And these mountains are beautiful. As you can see, they're covered with green, short trees and bushes. And you can see in the background, we have a little lake, which is of course an artificial lake, just at the bottom of the mountains, which has a small artificial island in the middle of it.
Yes, this lake was originally used over 400 years ago as a watering place for the rice and tea which grew around the area, but more recently has been expanded and made into a sort of leisure facility. Thank you very much. Merci.
Tea is very important in Iranian families and in Iranian culture.
Yeah, you can't get away from tea in Iran. It's there everywhere. It's the first thing you get when you come through the door, and it's the last thing you get before you leave.
And you can never say no to someone who offers you tea in Iran.
So are you going to offer me some tea?
Yes, of course I'm going to.
Show me the proper way it's poured and served?
Yes, of course. And you know that Lahijan, the city that we are at the moment, is the city that for the first time tea was planted in this city.
Okay.
It actually has a nice story. Over 120 years ago, there was no tea in Iran before that. So there was coffee, people had no idea of tea. And there was a silk merchant who travels to China and brings tea seeds back to Iran. And this city was the place that they have planted for the first time. And you can see how much Iranians love it.
Absolutely. It's in that sort of short time, only 120 years or so, tea has grown to become the most popular drink, far more so than coffee. Coffee is still here and you can get it, but tea is part of the tradition.
And you have tea with sugar cubes in Iran. Please.
Thank you.
And there are lots of different teas in Iran. The north of Iran actually is like the main area for planting tea. Like Lahijan, this city has over 90% of chai or tea plantation in the country.
Oh wow. I mean, this whole area is one of the best places for growing tea because tea needs a certain specific climate. It needs a certain amount of altitude to be able to be cool enough to grow. It needs moisture and it needs long sunny days, so it can grow for a long time. This is why when you think of tea, often we think about places like China, like India, Sri Lanka as great tea growing places. But here in Lahijan is the center of the Iranian tea one. So let's try it.
Yes, and also another thing that tea needs is a couple who sit together and have tea together.
Very good.
flavors. Depends where you grow it, what temperature, what climate affects on the taste of the tea. And also there are teas that you know that you can add some different flavors.
Yes.
So like for example, my favorite tea, for example, is like mint tea.
Mint tea.
Yeah, it's beautiful, it's tasty, and it's very healthy.
Yeah.
And tea here is generally drunk without milk, with sugar sometimes, or with saffron flavoring, with the nabad.
Yeah, saffron flavor also is great.
It's very good.
And you can see the teapot here. In old time, tea in Iran used to be served or basically brewed in samovars. You know samovars? Samovars are like the old Iranian style tea makers.
It's a water boiler, which in the old days would have had a wood fire or a coal fire beneath it, where the water stays hot and you put your teapot on top and it gradually heats it and you get tea for the whole day that way.
And that this like ceremony of tea in Iranian families, it's not only sitting, drinking tea, it's kind of an excuse for them to come together, talk, you know, enjoy their time. And for that reason, in each family, when you go, all the materials, like the glasses they use, the teapot they use, it's not simple. It's like all design, all of them have different style. Like if you're gonna have breakfast tea, it's a different glass. If you're gonna have evening tea, it's a different glass.
A lot of different decoration on them, yes.
Exactly. Or like depends on which part of the country also. You get served like different types of tea in different types of glasses.
Very good. Well, this tea is lovely, really is. And we know it's come from probably somewhere only a couple of miles from here, which makes it all the better, all the more fresh and really, really tasty.
It is very fresh, yeah.
You're enjoying it?
Yeah, I love it.
Very good. Hello, thank you for joining us on Iran Travel Guide as we take you around the country and show you some of the sights, the culture and the food. We're here in a very special place in Mashhad in the northeast of Iran. We're at the mausoleum of Nader Shah.
Nader Shah was the king of Afshari dynasty. He's very famous for his military geniuses.
Yes, he fought against the Ottomans, the Russians, the Afghans, as well as local tribes, even leading an invasion to India. And in his short reign, managed to unify the kingdom of Persia in a way that no one had really done before.
When he was alive, while he was doing his army to different countries, he orders in the city of Mashhad to be built a mausoleum for him and his family. This place was ordered by him, but during the time has been destroyed and ruined a couple of times and renovated again.
Yes, 70 years ago, the construction behind us was completed. You see the statue above us here, depicting Nader Shah in one of his victories. He's got his battle axe with him, and he's followed by foot soldiers from different tribes, symbolizing the unity of Iran at the time and how the borders were encompassing different tribes and different people all fighting under the same flag.
The monument that you can see has been designed and built by Hushang Seyhun, who is one of the most famous Iranian architects and has done a lot of different mausoleums and monuments in different cities.
Yes, he unfortunately recently passed away, but his work survives and lives on in Mashhad especially, but also in other cities around the country.
The complex where we're standing right now, it's not only Nader Shah Mausoleum and resting place. It is a garden, it's a beautiful garden, including his resting place, and there are two museums, in different halls, where we're going to take you now to have a look around, first of all at the place and mausoleum and the statue, and then we're going to take you inside to the museums.
Yes, the museums are a fitting tribute to the man who some call the Napoleon of Persia for his military genius and exploits.
So be with us and follow us and look at this beautiful place. So we are back with you. You had a look at the garden and the monument and the statue. Now we're going to take you inside the museum. As we told you before, there is one museum which is in two different parts.
Yeah, the first part we're going to have a look at is the one which is about Nader Shah and the dynasty that he created. It's about his descendants and what happened afterwards. It was an age of turmoil in Iran in some ways, which he unified the country with. So this is going to give us a bit of a background as to where he came from and what he achieved.
And his biography and the history. So it's like an exhibition of, it's a history room as we might call it. So we're standing at the entrance of the hall. We're going to take you inside and have a look close at the objects and the notes there.
Absolutely. So let's go. We're going to have a look. Give us a real clue as to why Nader Shah was called the Napoleon of Persia. He was someone who was very practical in his methods and used to use all sorts of different methods in order to get the best out of his army. One of his overriding principles was organization. He organized the army into cavalry, infantry, cannons and engineers, the foundations of the modern army that was to come both in Europe and beyond. Here we see a few of the guns that would have been used, which were pretty much the same standard as were being used in Europe at the time. We have the heavier gun down the bottom, similar to an arquebus, which would have required a stand to put it on for close-range combat and firing into massed infantry. We have these ones up here, which are longer, so muskets. They still would have loaded from this end, being muzzle loaded, and used a ramrod to push down the ball and the gunpowder in there. They were slightly more accurate than the bigger guns and could be fired from cavalry. So he combined the techniques of gunpowder and cavalry very well in his time. But cavalry was still the basis of his army, and the best troops would become horsemen. The ones that would be trained from birth, often the nobility, would become the imperial guard horsemen, essentially. The ones who had full armor, like some of the ones we see behind us, and had good, proper saddles, good horses. And Arabian and Persian horses were famous for covering the rough terrain that allowed him to govern an empire as vast, stretching from the Caucasus Mountains all the way to India. This organization, this practicality, allowed him to get the best out of his troops, some of whom came from villages and had little training, and to really put his stranglehold on the empire as he made it.
another chapter of Iran Travel Guide. We are talking to you from the city of Shiraz and from a very holy place from the center of the city.
Yes, we're standing here in the Shah Chahar complex.
The Shah Cheragh complex in the city of Shiraz, which is the burial place of two very important and respected people of Islam and Shia.
Ahmadi and Mohammadi are both buried here. They're two brothers of Imam Reza, who is the 8th Imam of the Shia religion.
Whose tomb and resting place is still in Iran, in the city of Mashhad.
Which we'll be bringing you in another episode.
Yeah, as you can see in the background, you can have the beautiful view to this wonderful place with wonderful the shrine, the minarets.
So we're here in the tomb of Ahmadi, one of the brothers of Imam Reza, who is one of the most important imams in the Shia Islam faith. We've looked at some of the details of this place and they are simply staggering. The amount of work and effort that has gone into creating a place of such beauty and peace is overwhelming. The tiles here are mirrored and go from floor to ceiling, all the way up and down again, with various different designs and styles. This creates an effect where the light is scattered around, much like the light from heaven would be, scattered into many different dimensions and different ways. It's simply breathtaking to behold. There is so much effort that goes into creating a place for devotion like this. And this comes from an army of volunteers, many of whom give much of their lives in service to this shrine. Every day they parade in and out, doing homage to Ahmadi himself, as well as keeping the place clean, making sure everything is nice and peaceful. They spray rose water into the air so that the atmosphere is a pleasant one to be in. As we come into this main room, we see some of the other functions of this sort of shrine. It is not like a mosque where people only come to pray In fact, people come here with their families. People come here to sit, to relax, to savor the peaceful environment. There are books provided, copies of the Quran and other religious texts, so people can educate themselves and further their religious understanding. There are inscriptions on the wall, again from the Quran and other religious texts, to increase people's devotion, so they can understand their own faith, where they come from. As we look around here, it's a combination of these factors, of the pure opulence and beauty of the surroundings and the devotion and purity of heart of the people that make this shrine somewhere very special.